I've already made this one before. I'm gonna make it again because this is really important. People are like, "Why is this important? Why does it?" It is. It's very like it seems really stupid, but it's really not because I understand how the languages work and how everything's been interwoven with everything. Because Genesis, and I'll tell the story one more time. I'll tell it as many times as I have to explain it to you. Because Genesis is a book of law, it means everything that is in Genesis makes it law. That means the story of creation becomes law. The story and the story of creation is the fall. So the fall becomes law, right? Well, Adam and God walk around together, and whether they walked in Eve, let's not get into that, and how the whole it and the spirit of God, how the spirit of the world works, right? I understand it because I've had to go through it. But Adam and God, because Adam's in the mirror image of God, everything, when God creates in the story of Genesis, he speaks it out of his mouth. Well, then he creates Adam in the mirror image of him, and God and Adam, they go and they walk around, they name it, everything together, and God is giving Adam the power of creation through everything he speaks. That's why the Hebrews are so important about like how you speak and what you say, because Abra, you are speaking it into creation because Genesis is a book of the law. So that power exists, whether you want to notice it, recognize it, or whatever. So Satan starts creating everything off of that. Or maybe not even Satan, just because the way that after the fall, everything's created, right? Those are the ground rules of this world. So if Baal like creates all these languages and these words, and then you don't even realize it, and you're like, Baal this and Baal that and Baal that, by the way that everything's set up in creation, because Genesis is a book of law, makes it factually how the world is going to work. And the spirit will go with that because God made this deal with Satan, and those are the rules. So Baal can be like, I've made Baal and you make the Lord and Lord. And then Jesus is now the new Adam. And when he makes Jesus, when you make Jesus the new Adam, and you roundly agree because the New Testament's the New Testament and everybody agrees with it, whether you realize what you're doing or not, you're giving Baal, Satan, Janus, whatever, the power of creation, because you've given him the power of Adam, because you've made him the new Adam. And Adam is law. So you've made him the next Adam, and Adam has the power of creation out of his mouth. So everything in the New Testament that was spoken out of Jesus' mouth is now law because he's the new Adam, and he's been given the power of creation, whether it's Satan, Baal, or whatever. It's a trick. So me as the high priest, because in Zechariah, I am the high priest, and as the high priest, Joshua, the branch, I have power over I don't have power over Christianity and Adam and Janus and Satan and all that. I don't have power, but I have power over the Torah. And I was born on the end of the Talmud. And God has given me the power over the Hebrew language and his word. And what he's written it very specifically in Zechariah that I will judge his courts, and I have that power. I am the high priest. And as the high priest, I get to make that decision over the Torah. I can't, okay, let's say Baal and Adam has creation over the New Testament. That's fine. You can have power over the Old Testament all you want. But I am in charge of the Hebrew language and what goes before God. God has made me his will and his instrument in that. Therefore, I'm cutting out Genesis out of the book of law. So it's no longer law. So the story of Adam is no longer a part of the law. The law is what was handed down to Moses, and that's the law. Genesis is not so spoken and whatever and all that Baal and all that, those tricky things that you did no longer matter. So you can be the first, second, third, 50th, 80th Adam all you want. It doesn't matter because it's not a book of law and it's not law under God. So God no longer has to recognize it as the law in this world, because I, as the high priest, can make that decision. So since I've made that decision, and as the high priest, which God is it is roundly recognized in this world, that becomes the law. Genesis is no longer the book of law. So all that language, word salad things that you did and created with Adam, I'm Adam and I'm Genesis, Jesus, whatever it is, blah, 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 and all that stuff that you did, it no longer exists and has power in this world anymore, because Genesis is not a book of law anymore. And since it's not a book of law, the story of Adam and God is not law. It's a story. It's a story of creation, how God, but the first book, the book of Moses, the book of Exodus, is the first book of law. So since I've cut that out, all that stuff that you did with the New Testament, all those things that you did with the language, doesn't exist anymore, because I'm in control of the Torah. I'm in control of the Old Testament. That's the one thing I am definitely 100%. It's in Zechariah, Joshua the high priest, Joshua the branch, Joshua the servant, Jeshurun, my upright son. You can make up all you want, but it doesn't matter anymore, because you can be the 50th Adam, you can be the 400 millionth Adam. It doesn't matter anymore, because Genesis is no longer a book of law. So those rules that you're using to manipulate everything don't exist anymore, by the rules that it doesn't have to follow it anymore, because the Spirit of God rests upon me. So all that stuff you made, I can go and work through Jesus, Janus, Satan after this point. It doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't have any power. Revelations doesn't have any power. The letters of Paul don't have any power anymore. The words of Jesus don't have any power anymore. And then we can go back through, and I can work on that stuff. And we can try to fix it, because there's a lot of people that follow that stuff. I don't know how we're going to get to that point yet, but I just broke it. And I broke apart that. The rules of Genesis don't apply. They're no longer law. So since they're no longer law, all that word salad stuff, that your crowns, they're gone. They're gone at this moment. So let it be written, abracadabra. I just spoke it into existence. I just spoke it into existence. You want to use some judgment? I don't have to do that. I don't have to speak it into existence, because I can't do that anymore. I can't speak it into existence anymore, because Genesis is no longer a book of law. As the high priest, I have total control over the Torah, the Old Testament, and the Word of God. I am God's will on this earth. So I don't have to speak anything. God just tells me what to do, and this is it. And this is no longer a book of law. And since it's no longer a book of law, all that stuff in the New Testament and all that stuff that you're using no longer has power in this world. So let it be written. So let it be done. You don't want to take some Egyptian raw stuff, but as the high priest, I have total control over it. Can I get a ruling on this, guy? He said it.